of the United States Senate, not just state senators. So Reconstruction, you also had the advent of public schools. So black elected officials obviously fought for policy and things that directly affected, working people, poor people, and ex-slaves. So one of the things they were looking for was education, right? Because education gets you out of this situation you in. So this whole idea of free public education became important, and it wasn't just important for African Americans. All people in the South, once a law is passed, it affects everybody. So everybody had a right to be involved in this. So these are the kind of progressive kind of policies that were enacted during a progressive political atmosphere for people in power. Once that was destroyed, I mean literally destroyed, troops left the South, then you had the Solid South. Immediately following that was a series of years of lynching. Lynchings. There's a book by Ralph Ginsberg called 100 Years of Lynching. If you read that, they hung people from poles, trees, off the sides of bridges. They went into jails and pulled people out and hung them and beat them and took genitalia and parts from their body and used it as souvenirs. There's postcards. I show my students in school, we do it for Black History Month, we do this whole thing of postcards where people sent people of themselves. Look there, we were at the picnic where we hung a Negro from the tree and cut off his genitalia and would send that around like a picnic. These things happen in a time period of repression right after a very progressive time in the United States. So right after a very progressive time, you had a very serious repression. So that follows. Obviously, people, when you get progressive folks to do things, there are other folks that are angry. Sometimes you think we're fighting and we don't know there's another side of people that are also upset, and they're going to push back, they're going to push back, they're going to push back. And so that's why it's important to be organized. That's why it's important to have institutions. That's why it's important to have long-standing kind of things. And that's why it's important to fight on different fronts and not just on the same front all of the time. And I'm saying that because this last presidential election, anti-racist Democratic forces in the United States came together. They came together and elected the first black president of the United States ever, right? So we're talking about a mass movement of young people, blacks, Latinos, working class, whites, even some middle class white folks, students, anti-racist, progressive folks came together of all nationalities and voted for Barack Obama as the president. Once they did that, we dispersed again. And so our little places, everybody went into their little, whatever they was doing before, they went back to their dance over here, the cultural event here, the thing that was going on over here, the event that was happening there. Then the Tea Party came very hard. Boom. And you have a very serious conservative pushback that's happening right now. That's just not affecting the President of the United States. So if you look at this president have had more death threats than any president in the history of this country. There are postcards that have gone out portraying the White House with watermelons on the lawn, right? There are pictures of Michelle Obama with an afro and a fist in the air, or bumping the fist, with Barack Obama dressed like Saddam Hussein or something. I mean, there are people who refer to them as monkeys and their children as monkeys. Right. These kinds of things, these actually been documented kinds of assaults on the President of the United States that if any other president went through this, there would be major kind of press and outcry about even a death threat. There's a guy who fires a gun into stands across from the White House and fires a gun into the White House. These kinds of things that are happening, as well as an attack on healthcare, an attack on education, attack on, when I say education, not just public education, but higher education as well. You can see the Christie plan and the Christie tracts that are running around here. These are Democrats that really, belong with Chris Christie, I call those people Christy-crats. So those kinds of folks that are working to enact a plan of less progressive kind of things that are taking care of all people and most people, that are giving tax cuts to the rich while at the same time raising students' tuition, or closing down schools, public schools as well as higher education, closing down schools, merging schools, because they don't have any money, but they're giving tax cuts to the rich. They bail out the banks for billions of dollars because they say the banks are too big to fail. So the bank is too big to fail, but the school system is not too big to fail. Right? So these kinds of things, this kind of conservative idea, if you spend $800 billion of the people's money for institutions, then what did the people get in return? So there was no plan of what do we get in return for that? Like, what are we getting for our $800 billion? Are we getting some mortgages that are, next to nothing? Are we going to get loans for businesses? Are they going to fix our roads? Are they going to do all kinds of different things? Are they going to come and invest in the community and provide jobs and employment? No, they get more money for the executives that are in those places, and that's exactly what happened.